the last couple months as you're getting ready, kind of building up toward this kind of day?
You know, it's nerve-wracking, but it's a blessing in a good way, you know, being able to have this process. You know, a lot of guys end their college career, you know, that's it. So being able to have this opportunity is a blessing in disguise. You know, I attacked it from, you know, the start of January all the way to here. You know, I'm pretty proud of what I put out today. You know, I thought I did great. You know, I flew through the D-line drills. You know, I improved my 40, which is my overall goal. You know, so you know, when you leave everything else you have on the field, you know, there's no more regrets when you walk away. So.
How do you feel like you got better as a player this season? You're one of those things regrets in the end. What did you see on the field? How did you?
The biggest thing that I can say, you know, when people ask me that is this polished refinement, you know, being able to refine my game. You know, I've been who I am, but, you know, being able to come somewhere that's uncomfortable, you know, being able to be pushed farther than where you thought you could go, you know, being able to learn from a guy like Warren Sapp, being able to learn those little things about how to conduct yourself in this process, you know, how to conduct yourself as a rookie, you know, how to answer questions when people ask you stuff like this, you know, being able to come to a place like this that prepares you to go to the next level because that's what they want to see and that's what they've done. You know, being able to walk in the path of people that have walked before you, those are the big things, and that's what I can say about those things.
Given the fact you started out college as a walk-on, has it helped in this draft process, just kind of going back to the beginning and kind of working your way up?
You know, that's like the biggest thing, being an underrated guy, you know, having that people thinking that they've overlooked me, don't even like know who some people don't even know who I am, you know. It's a familiar burn and it feels good, you know, being able to have that burn under you again, it makes you feel alive, you know, you feel like shows you that, you know, despite doing good this year, you know, it's nowhere near where I'm going to be, you know, and I can only improve as I've improved in college throughout every single year that I've been in college, and, you know, I'm excited to attack this as well.
When you made the time here, what would you say was your impetus behind it? What was the main reason?
Being able to be polished, you know, being able to polish up my game and learn from a guy like Warren Sapp, you know, and Damian Lewis when he was here, you know, learning from those guys, you know, learning how to like conduct myself, you know, learning how to like approach pass rush, learning how to break down film, you know, learning from guys like, you know, Robert Livingston, you know, a very cerebral person, you know, he's a mad scientist when it comes to defense. Being able to learn those like certain things, you know, what my responsibilities are, you know, how to conduct myself, you know, being able to push myself further than where I thought I could go, like I said before. You know, those are the things that really like showed me like, you know, this may not be comfortable and it's not going to be an easy year, but it's going to be what I need to make this jump.
Coach Prime always talks about NFL, not NIL. So now that was your impetus in coming here, how do you feel it all went? And do you feel like you're better prepared to enter that world based upon that?
You know, like money management is always something that he emphasized. You know, financial literacy is a big thing for Coach Prime. You know, it's a blessing to learn those things. You know, learn about taxes. You know, learning how to invest. You know, learning how to save money. You know, some guys on the team have fathers. You know, learning how to put away, you know, money for your children. Those are the things that are blessings. You know, that he's taught us. You know, not only to be great football players, but great like, you know, fathers. You know, great husbands. Like just great people in general. Like he doesn't just coach. He doesn't coach players. He coaches people.
Last question for BJ.
What are your draft plans? Like, where do you plan to be during the draft? You gonna watch it, have a family party?
I'm gonna be around loved ones. You know, just taking it all in. You know, this is 4 years of work that all culminated up to this point. You know, you got to enjoy this process. You know, it's only the beginning of the process. You know, some people it's the end all be all, but you know, to be blessed to be at this point where people have interest in you. You know, people are talking to you. It shows that you actually do have a future in this. You know, you put the work in. You know, and I'm glad to see that like. To come back here and wear the black and gold one last time. So now that I've done that, you know, it's just all about, you know, letting the cards fall where they fall.
Thank you.